Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. WestchesterTalkRadio.com. Produced by Sharc Creative. Made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. By Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. And by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. I'm John Marino, and this is on the Beat in Westchester, WestchesterTalkRadio.com. We are joined by John Bailey, the editor, publisher of White Plains CitizeNet Reporter, WPNR.com, and he is also the host of a couple of TV shows seen across cable widely around Westchester. No matter where you are around the county, you can get either or both of these shows, White Plains Weekend, People to be Heard. John Bailey, thank you for joining us again here on Westchester Talk Radio. The elections are 2 weeks away. Let's go locally first. The race for Congress in the 16th district between the incumbent, first-term incumbent, looking for a second term in office, Jamal Bowman, in a district that covers the North Bronx and basically most of Westchester below 287, including White Plains, New Rochelle, Yonkers, Mount Vernon. His challenger, the one-time mayor of Scarsdale, Dr. Miriam Levitt Flisser. Does she have any kind of a shot, considering what Bowman did to his primary adversaries, Vedat Gashi and Catherine Parker, both members of the county board?
Well, she hasn't campaigned, so I don't see how she can make an inroad in him at all. And I'm astounded. I mean, she is a very well-spoken individual. She has lots of experience. She's very rational. And I just don't understand what's going on. Obviously, I mean, I can't see that she's spending a lot of money. I haven't even gotten any mailings from her.
Mm-hmm. I spoke to her about 2 weeks ago. The impression I got is that she was not going to be pretty pushy in this campaign. She hardly criticized Bowman. It was came across to me more as, you see Jamal Bowman, you're walking by him on the street, you tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, Jamal, maybe you could try this instead of that. And that seemed to be the extent of what she's doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's not that kind of person at all. When I interviewed a couple of years ago, and she was just really a go-to hard-driving person. And this is just so out of character for her not to at least raise some issues.
Do you think the Republicans in this area, in this county, have this kind of a problem overall? We go back a year. The race for county executive, Christine Schulte, hardly ran a campaign, and yet I think she got 37% of the vote, which I said at that time a year ago after the election, I thought she would have gotten maybe 37 votes instead of 37%. This seems to me that the Republicans are basically in this county, knowing it's overwhelmingly Democratic, just throwing it in, just showing it up and calling it a day.
They don't appear to be throwing it in the Lawler race with Sean Patrick
But
Maloney.
That's based on the other side of the river in Rockland County, which is different, and about 45% of that district is in Rockland County, which I think makes a big difference.
But I mean, they're spending money. I mean,
right, they are. They have the money to spend.
Campaigning hard, and Flisser basically hasn't campaigned.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, not even to send a brochure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might have gotten one, but I've gotten so few. And to my way of thinking, there's so things that can be attacked. Yeah, he could be attacked on. He doesn't know the district at all because he's been gerrymandered into it, and he doesn't have any real roots in the district. He doesn't know our needs, or if we have any. I don't know if we have any, but
I think everybody does.
Yes, right. Yeah. Exactly. But nobody is making the case. I mean, and she hasn't, Flisser has not appeared with anybody of note in the district. And I mean, she's a placeholder. Now, what are the Republicans going to do for her for taking this nomination. Right. What deal is in the offing?
Right. That leads to my next line of thought. Was she kind of put up to it in return for a future promise to anything to come her way?
Well, the Republicans need leadership in this county. I mean, there is none at the present time. And there is, but they aren't doing anything.
No, I don't see them doing much.
Yes, right. And
which is part of the problem, I think.
Well, look,
with Flisser.
This is the Republicans' year. They've got the Biden administration on the ropes. They've got the Democrats in a huge gerrymandering blunder, and they could very well pick up some seats. I mean, I just don't know. I don't think you can believe the polls.
Do you think the Republicans in this county just kind of have their leadership just kind of has the mindset of, we're so outnumbered voter-wise that we can't really do much, so why try so hard?
That's no excuse. You have to raise the issues.
Right.
You have to raise issues. Otherwise, you get what you had 4 years ago when the Republicans were able to flip to Democrats to pass the Astrino budgets, which they never should have done because they were way, way overestimated.
So why is Mike Lawler seemingly doing so well in the next district up the river? Big part in Westchester, huge part in Rockland County. He is a Rockland assemblyman, one-time protege, I guess, of Rob Astorino, worked for Rob Astorino when he was county executive a few years back. We're talking the 17th district now. Yes, gerrymandered. Could part of Lawler's seeming success so far in the new polls a few days ago, a McLaughlin poll, had him up by a good 5 or 6 points. Could the Mondaire-Jones effect be part of what's happening in this race, where Mondaire was basically booted out by Sean Patrick Maloney after the redistricting was approved by the special master, or redone by the special master, after what the governor of the legislature did was kicked out by the state appeals court, where the Maloney folks basically told Mondaire, who, like Jamal Bowman, was a first-term congressman, that, hey, get out of here and go find your own district, a better district suited for you, which whatever suited for you might mean.
They didn't
go
like
look for a better district for you to run in.
They didn't like, the Democratic Party didn't like Mondaire. They didn't like the fact that he defeated a long-time congressperson.
And, he stepped in for Anita Lowy and then beat a pretty big field to get the nomination and then roll to victory. Could it be that he's effective, which he was and has been in his district? He went into this district a couple of years ago, and he immediately handled a flooding problem in West Nyack and Rockland that had existed for 30 years, since 1991. Mondaire stepped in, got it done within weeks.
He's a do-something congressman, and they don't like do-something congressmen if they're freshmen. The establishment in Congress hates new guys that defeat longtime cronies, which is what, and they're just terrible that way. Look what happened to Jamal Bowman. They put him into this district in Westchester the 16th, figuring we would lop out his whole constituency. But I think he's going to win because the Republicans, I thought Flisser would have been a good candidate because she's based in Scarsdale, all white there, okay? And, this would be a good mix if she played her cards right. And, but she hasn't even participated in the deal. The cards have not been dealt, hasn't made any.
The cards get dealt a certain way. You have to play them accordingly, and it doesn't seem like she really wants to throw all her cards in because she thinks maybe she doesn't have a shot.
Look, you've got Harrison, in the district. You got White Plains, and you got Scarsdale. It's essentially a white district, and Bowman is probably going to win it because
now Bowman turned the tables, I thought, during the primary on his challengers, and he won by a lot. And I don't think Flisser has any kind of a chance, even if she spent $5 million in this district. But that's the way it goes. You do have to make a fight out of it, make a campaign out of it. And it seems like she is not. Do you think Mike Lawler, in the end, will beat Sean Patrick Maloney in the 17th?
Yes, he is running the masterful negative campaign. And Maloney has done very little that's been effective in blunting the relentless Lawler assault, which has to be well funded. And he makes appearances with all sorts of conservative personalities, and this is effective. Crime, costs, and of course the right to life.
Is this poetic justice for Sean Patrick Maloney, maybe based upon what he did to Mondaire Jones? Because I think if Mondaire were still in this district, that he would win.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Mondaire was absolutely. This is done in White Plains all the time. If you don't cooperate with the party elders in the Democratic Party, you're out of there. You won't get renominated. This has happened 5 times in White Plains.
What's happening locally in White Plains this year for election day?
Well, nothing really. The council is not up. We have the county elections, and Boykin is assured he's not even having anybody running against him for the
for the county board.
Yes, and so basically, there's no real incentive for White Plains people to go out and vote.
Local elections around Westchester, any possible upsets that you see?
No, not really. I just don't really. I follow really White Plains, but look at this. You got the Senate. You got the 2 Senate races, and I mean they have long-term icons up there in the Senate running in those districts. And I'm not even aware that anybody has really been campaigning strong against
Andrea Stewart Cousins.
Right, can't. And that's how invisible the campaign has been. But and of course Shelley Mayer has been campaigning in White Plains. She appeared with the mayor last week, dedicating a memorial to veterans behind City Hall. She is trying to get deeper into the White Plains consciousness because that has very little of Yonkers anymore. But she has to realize she no longer is beholden to Yonkers. She has a district where she has to work for a district that has a lot more ability to do things for the district.
Andrea Stewart Cousins of Yonkers, state senator. She is the state Senate majority leader, and she is one of the 3 most powerful people in New York State. So it would be tough, I think, to replace her, for any kind of a challenger to replace her. And Andrea, of course, in the middle of a lot of controversy the past year and change, ever since the pandemic hit, and we went to bail reform and changing the way we handle criminals or alleged criminals around New York State. Now we have the race for governor. Kathy Hochul, the Democrat, the accidental governor who came to office from her position as lieutenant governor after Andrew Cuomo resigned last year. She's being challenged heavily by Long Island Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. A month ago, Zeldin down 24 points in the polls. Now he is within 4 points. It's basically a toss-up at this point. Does Lee Zeldin have a real shot to win, or is it, again, don't trust polls?
I don't trust polls at all. I will never trust them again after that Trump-Clinton debacle, which held down the vote because nobody really felt that Clinton had a shot at losing. That's the trouble with polls. If they're wrong, they could create an unintended result.
Right.
And if they're right, there's a bandwagon effect. Oh, let's vote for Lee Zeldin. He's because of this terrible inflation, this terrible crime wave, And now Mr. Zeldin ran a spot last Monday where he absolutely reversed himself on abortion.
I don't think he reversed himself.
He said
then
it's
Mike
something
Lawler
that
told me
indicated
that.
he has weakened it considerably. No, the quote
If
was,
they say that no matter
"Can't do
what,
it."
that the abortion laws will not be changed in New York State. They understand that whether or not they agree with them or not. And that's true in New York
Well,
State.
the
Whatever
direct
the
quote
Supreme Court
out of
did
that,
doesn't matter. We do things this way here. And I
yeah,
think that's a given, and that'll never
but
be.
still, that is an indication that Zeldin realizes he's strong on the crime, he has inflation, and his big problem is the women of New York State.
Yeah, I think that it was a good campaign move on his part to say that
Of course,
the abortion
it
laws
was
in the state will not be changed.
disingenuously transparent. I mean,
Now,
he was
why
doing
has
that
he
to
been?
put the nail in the whole coffin and send the uppity woman from Albany out the door.
Why has he been so successful, seemingly so far, with his campaign?
Well, we don't know if he's successful enough. We'll find that
So
out.
far, the numbers tell us he's been pretty successful.
Well, if
That
you
does
believe
not
the
mean
numbers,
he
yeah.
will win. That
But
does
I mean,
not mean he
Hochul
will win.
obviously believes them because she announced 3 or 4 projects actually open this week in Nassau, in Suffolk County, just to try and cut into his lead there. And if he does have a lead,
He does, a small one.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, she announced this new campaign against websites all across the spectrum to punish them for inciting violence and in promoting it.
By the way,
that was a strong move on her point.
The governor did have a few months ago. She also had the roads of Long Island, the LIE in Suffolk, basically repaved from almost end to end right now. And I took that early on, like June, July, when she said, we're going to take care of the roads of Long Island. I took that immediately as she worried about Zeldin, at least to some extent.
Yes, well, Zeldin has no real things he would do. Have you noticed that? He talks about inflation.
Right.
He talks about crime. So this translates to me is we're going to really roll back everything on bail.
Yeah, he said he would fire Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg on day one, which may not be the best move, I think.
And then he will probably try and get stronger sentences, but he has or more aid for the police, something like that. But we haven't had any crystallization of an actual anti-crime policy from him. This is the problem with reporters today. They don't ask tough questions.
Right.
Well, how would you stop crime, Lee? How would you stop crime, Lee? That's a very easy question. I have reporters on White Plains Orange that would ask that question, but nobody else does. They get paid for asking the questions. But I don't watch his stuff, and his spots, masterpieces of negativity, really playing into people's. And he's also developed a new, softer image. He looks like he just stepped out of a choir. And
he's a family guy. That's his image.
Oh, they're all family men, John. Yeah. You know that. I mean, really, a family man.
But, John Bailey, White Plains CitizenNet Reporter, WPCNR.com, the editor and publisher, host of a couple of shows every week, too, on cable systems all around Westchester. White Plains Weekend, People to be Heard. The national effect locally of the Biden administration, everything going on with their attempts to try to retain control of the House and Senate. Obviously, trickled down effect with that here in New York and the races, except maybe for the Bowman race.
Well, if New York State actually does elect Zeldin, which is quite possible, you never know what the voters are going to do, and they're really thinking when they answer a poll. So,
all right. So, do you think the House is gone from the Democrat standpoint?
At this point, yes.
What about the Senate? What about the Senate? I think that's
Senate might be okay, but if you keep the Senate and you lose the House, then what you have is 2 years of nothing, because nothing will happen that would
Right,
get
2 years of a
issue.
totally fractured government we would
A
have.
big issue.
I think it's going to be a lot tougher for the Republicans to take the Senate. It's just like, for example, the Chuck Schumer race here in New York. New poll from Quinnipiac a few days ago has Chuck with a 12-point lead, and yet his favorability rating is only 51% around the state.
He's been around too long.
His opponent is a Yonkers guy, Republican Joe Pinion, who styles himself as a political journalist. No one knows who Joe Pinion is. Is that opinion or rack and pinion steering? My first thoughts that come to mind, basically. Yeah. So if Joe Pinion had a lot more money and was able to get out there a lot more, I think he might be able to make some inroads on Chuck Schumer. But even to be 12 points back in the polls right now, I think for him is pretty good. And yet, there's no chance he has.
Well, that is an indication. You may be right, and that is really amazing that Schumer is only ahead by 12%,
and that he has a 51% approval rating only in this state.
Well, look, he didn't get a lot done leading the Senate the last 2 years, and it was really way late when it got done. Now, the big issue coming up in both houses is whether or not the government will continue to fund COVID vaccines as they're doing now. If that requires approval by both houses to do that. And the Republicans may actually want to stop funding it, which would be very tough.
Would we have a COVID worry at this point? Maybe during the holidays, people getting together again. New variant in Europe has come about, and some health people say if it's in Europe, eventually it will come here. The numbers are beginning to go up there.
Yes. Well, we have had 11 straight weeks of about 1,300 infections a week, new infections. Now, they're spreading the disease. One person spreads it to one person, which is good. But that does not mean COVID is reducing in numbers. And we had the news that the New York City schools infected 17,000 students and teachers, students and staff in the first 4 weeks of school.
And yet we go on operating as if there's really nothing going on school-wise.
Well, that's what a lot of politicians are doing. They're not saying anything about it. They're not jawboning that we have to keep vigilant. And it's over. It's in the rearview mirror. It's not. It's right here. And to my way of thinking, that since Westchester County is not reporting what infection schools have and what the rate is, and they told me they aren't doing that. They're not going to have a dashboard on schools in Westchester County, which they could do because the health department gets every infection of COVID reported to it. Well, that is keeping information from people that they need to know. If it's only 1%, John, that's good. We should know that.
Right.
Now, because if it's not 1%, it is really negligent to not tell people that, hey, we're going up. But the county is infecting at a 6 to 7% rate steady since the beginning of August.
Final moments here with John Bailey on Westchester Talk Radio on the Beat in Westchester. John, could Westchester pick up a lesson from Goshen in Orange County? Goshen is instituting a Halloween curfew from October 28th to November 1st. You have to be done trick-or-treating by 8 p.m. You can't go back out to trick-or-treat until 6 a.m. 6 a.m. people are generally doing other things. Is this something we could institute around Westchester, maybe?
Well, it is not a bad idea. That remains to be seen whether people have cried out for this or whether people will obey it and what they will do but if there's nobody with houses on, with lights inviting them in, it might be a bad haul for the kiddies out there.
Well, I'll tell you for Halloween, and I tell everybody this when they ask, what are you going to be this year, John? I've told them this for, I don't know, maybe 30 years or so. I'm always in costume 24/7, 365. Saves a lot of money, and I get the best treats this way, just looking like this. There you go. So hopefully I
Always be
scare no one.
yourself. Right.
Always be yourself. That's what they say. No doubt about that. And by the way, Hastings High School, for the 33rd year in a row, will be hosting homeless dinner for Thanksgiving. It'll be on Tuesday, November 22nd, a Thanksgiving dinner for the homeless. This is an event that began around in 1990 with 150 people that they served, and now this is up to 800 plus. So if you'd like to maybe donate or take part at Hastings High School, get on the school's website and let them know and tell them you want to donate too. Maybe they can direct you in the area of what you need to do donation-wise, give you some guidance there. John Bailey, great to have you here on,
Always a pleasure.
on the Beat in Westchester. Here we go with Election Day. We'll talk right after Election Day. And we thank you again, John Bailey, for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio on the Beat in Westchester, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. Also by Michael Labriola, Land, Escape Design, and Construction of Armonk. Hightower, Westchester, managing your wealth too, a fiduciary standard, and by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County talk radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. Download our app. Take it with you 24/7, 365. It's called Westchester Talk. And yes, we are now on Apple Podcasts too.